I died on my wedding day, choking on champagne laced with peanut oil while my fiancé watched with cold eyes. Now I'm 16 again, staring at those same eyes across the dinner table, and this time I know exactly what that look means. Your smile is crooked, Ethan says, his voice dripping with the disgust he used to hide so well. It makes you look simple-minded. My mother laughs, actually laughs like he's made the cleverest observation. Oh, Ethan, you're so right. I've always thought so, but never knew how to say it. Claire, dear, maybe you should smile less. It's not attractive. My father doesn't even look up from his phone. My sister Melissa smirks into her wine glass, 18 and already perfecting the art of cruelty our mother taught her. I keep smiling, not for them, never for them again. I smile because I know something they don't. In 6 years, Ethan will convince me to sign over my inheritance before our wedding. He'll take the trust fund my grandmother left me, the one that activates when I turn 21. He'll drain every account, forge my signature on documents transferring my shares of Grandma's company to him, and then he'll kill me. Not with his own hands, he's too clever for that. But he'll know about my peanut allergy, the severe one that my family conveniently forgets about. He'll slip it into my champagne and hold me down while I convulse, whispering that I was always too stupid to see what was right in front of me. My crooked smile. The smile he spent 5 years grooming me to be ashamed of. The smile that disappeared from my face gradually as he whittled away at my confidence piece by piece. By the time I was 21, I barely smiled at all. I'd learned to cover my mouth when I laughed, to keep my face neutral and pleasant, to make myself smaller and smaller until there was almost nothing left to kill. Almost. But here's what Ethan doesn't know yet, what none of them know. I remember everything. I remember the taste of peanuts and betrayal. I remember Melissa's face when she burst into the bridal suite, her performance of shock and grief worthy of an Oscar, even as I saw her exchange a knowing glance with Ethan. I remember my mother's trembling voice as she told the police it must have been an accident, that I'd always been so careless about my allergy. I remember my father finally looking up from his phone long enough to ask Ethan about the life insurance policy. Most of all, I remember dying at 21 years old, having never lived a single day for myself. The universe, God, fate, whatever force governs these things, decided to give me another chance. I woke up on the morning of my 16th birthday, the day Ethan Reynolds first came to our house for dinner, the day this whole nightmare began. I spent the first hour vomiting from the shock of it, from the phantom pain of anaphylaxis still burning in my throat. Then I spent the next 3 hours planning. Claire, are you even listening? Melissa snaps her fingers in front of my face. Ethan asked you a question. I turned my full attention to him, this 21-year-old man who pursued a 16-year-old girl with the patience of a predator. He's handsome in that clean-cut, all-American way that made me feel so special when he first showed interest. Stanford graduate, junior executive at my father's company, charming and solicitous to my parents. The perfect catch. The perfect fraud. I'm sorry, I say, and I let my smile widen, crooked and unashamed. I was distracted. What did you ask? His jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. He doesn't like being ignored, doesn't like that I'm not hanging on his every word the way I did before, the way he's expecting me to. I was just saying that your mother mentioned you're interested in business school. That's quite ambitious for someone like you. Someone like you. The condescension is subtle enough that my parents don't catch it, or don't care to, but I hear it. I heard it every day for 5 years. The slow drip of poison disguised as concern, as love. Actually, I say, "Stam." I've decided to focus on something else entirely. I'm going to take a gap year after high school and intern at Grandma's company. The silence that falls over the table is deafening. My grandmother, Eleanor Chen, built a textile empire from nothing. She's 78 now, sharp as ever, and she's been begging me to take an interest in the family business since I could walk. In my first life, I dismissed it as boring, too eager to please my parents who'd always treated Grandma's work as somehow beneath us, too unsophisticated for our modern family. My mother had married into money and spent her life trying to erase her own working-class roots. My father, old money turned lazy money, viewed Grandma's self-made fortune with barely concealed contempt. They'd convinced me that I didn't need to work, that a woman of my station should focus on making a good marriage and supporting her husband's career. By the time I realized they'd been systematically isolating me from the one person who actually loved me, from the one source of power and independence I had, it was too late. Grandma had died when I was 19, and I'd barely seen her in the 3 years before that. She'd left me everything anyway. Her company, her stocks, her real estate holdings, a fortune worth hundreds of millions, and my family had helped Ethan steal every penny. "That's ridiculous," my mother says, recovering first. "Your grandmother's little fabric business?" "Claire, we've discussed this. You're going to Wellesley then." "Then I'll marry well and make you proud," I finish for her. "I know, but I'm not asking permission." "Grandma already said yes when I called her this afternoon." My father's head snaps up for the first time all evening. "You called your grandmother? Without discussing it with us first?" "She's my grandmother. I didn't realize I needed permission to talk to my own family." Melissa's eyes narrow. She knows something's different, can sense that the pushover little sister she's tormented for 16 years has suddenly grown a spine. "Since when do you care about Grandma's company? You always said it was boring." "I said a lot of things I didn't mean," I reply, and I look directly at Ethan when I say it. "I'm done with that now." Ethan's smile is perfectly calibrated, concerned, and slightly amused. "Claire, I think it's wonderful that you want to connect with your grandmother. But running a business, especially one as complex as a textile manufacturing company, requires a certain level of sophistication and experience. Maybe you should start with something smaller. I could help you find a nice volunteer position at a charity." "I don't want to volunteer. I want to work. I want to learn everything about the business that will one day be mine." The words hang in the air like a bomb. I've never spoken about my inheritance before, never even acknowledged it. In my first life, I'd been so trained to find the topic gauche, so embarrassed by the idea of discussing money, that I'd let my family convince me I didn't deserve it, didn't need it, should just let them manage it for me. "Well," my mother says, her voice tight, "I think we need to discuss this more when emotions aren't so high." "Ethan, I apologize for Claire's rudeness. She's at that age where she thinks she knows everything." "I understand completely," Ethan says smoothly. "Adolescence is a difficult time. I'm sure once Claire has had time to think rationally, she'll realize that there are people who know what's best for her." I stand up abruptly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "Thank you for dinner. I have homework to do." "We're not finished eating," my father says, still looking at his phone. I am. I walk out of the dining room, my crooked smile still firmly in place. Even though no one's there to see it now. I hear my mother start to apologize to Ethan, hear Melissa make some catty comment about teenage rebellion, hear my father mumble something about disciplining me later. I don't care. For the first time in 2 lifetimes, I genuinely don't care what they think of me. In my room, I pull out my laptop and open the folder I've been compiling since I woke up in my 16-year-old body 3 weeks ago. Notes on everything I remember from my first life. Dates, conversations, business deals that will happen, stocks that will soar and crash. Every betrayal carefully documented. But more importantly, I've been researching. Deep background checks on Ethan Reynolds, the kind my parents never thought to do because they were so dazzled by his Ivy League degree and his apparent devotion to their awkward daughter. Ethan Reynolds doesn't exist. Or rather, he does now, but he didn't before he was 18. The birth certificate is real, but everything before that is a carefully constructed lie. The real Ethan Reynolds died in a car accident with his parents when he was 6 months old. The man in our dining room stole a dead baby's identity and built an entire false life around it. His real name is Eric Thompson. He grew up in foster care, in and out of juvenile detention for theft and fraud. He's got a gift for finding vulnerable targets and exploiting them. I'm not his first mark, just his most lucrative one. There was a woman in Connecticut, a widow he charmed and stole from before disappearing. Another in Vermont, though she died before he could complete the con. The police investigated but could never prove anything. I have proof now. It took every dollar of the birthday money I've saved over the years and a connection to some very gray market private investigators. But I have bank records, identity documents, testimony from his foster siblings, everything I need to destroy him. But I'm not going to use it yet. That would be too quick, too merciful. I want him to think he's winning right up until the moment I take everything from him. My phone buzzes, a text from Grandma. So proud of you, little warrior. Come by the office tomorrow after school. We have plans to make. I smile at the screen, and there's nothing crooked about it now. It's fierce and hungry and alive. The next 6 months are a masterclass in playing the long game. I let my family think they've won. I apologize to Ethan for being hormonal and dramatic at dinner. I defer to Higgs, his expertise, ask his advice, let him believe he successfully wormed his way back into my good graces. I watch him work, studying the techniques he uses to manipulate me, seeing clearly now what I missed before. The negging, the isolation, the way he subtly undermines my confidence while positioning himself as my only supporter, the way he badmouths my grandmother to my parents, planting seeds of suspicion about her intentions toward me. Eleanor's getting old, he tells my parents over brunch one Sunday while I pretend to be absorbed in my phone. It's natural that she'd want to hold on to control by dangling the inheritance in front of Claire. But is it really fair to burden a young girl with those expectations? What if she can't handle it? My mother nods thoughtfully, as if Ethan has said something profound instead of something transparently self-serving. My father grunts in agreement. Melissa just looks bored, scrolling through Instagram, probably planning which of my future assets she plans to claim as her own. But while I play the role of the malleable, uncertain teenager at home, I'm learning everything I can at Grandma's company. She doesn't coddle me or give me make-work tasks. She throws me into the deep end. Board meetings, factory tours, negotiations with suppliers. She teaches me to read profit and loss statements like they're novels, to spot inefficiency like a bloodhound, to understand that business is just applied psychology with spreadsheets. You're good at this, she says one evening as we review a proposal from a potential buyer interested in our Philippine factory. You have instincts. Why did you wait so long to show interest? I want to tell her everything. I want to explain that I died and came back, that I've been given this impossible second chance. But I know how it would sound. Instead, I say, I was stupid. I listened to the wrong people. And now I listen to you. She smiles and pats my hand with her weathered, age-spotted fingers. I won't be here forever, Claire. I need to know that everything I built will be in good hands. Your mother can't be trusted with it. She'd sell it all and retire to Monaco within a year. Melissa has no interest in anything that requires work. But you, I always hoped it would be you. It will be, I promise. I swear it, Grandma. She studies my face for a long moment, and I wonder if she can see the extra 5 years of life in my eyes. The death and rebirth that have aged my soul even as my body stays young. Something changed in you, she says finally. Something made you grow up fast. I won't ask what, I'm just grateful for it. That night, I update my will. At 16, it's not complicated. I don't have assets of my own yet, but I make sure that if anything happens to me before I turn 21, before I can access my inheritance, everything goes to Grandma's company foundation, not to my parents. It's a small protection, but it's something. I also start documenting everything. Every conversation with Ethan, I record on my phone. Every attempt he makes to isolate me from my grandmother, every lie he tells, every manipulation. I build a timeline showing the progression of his grooming, how he's slowly working to make me dependent on him, because that's what he's doing. In my first life, by the time I was 18, I believed I couldn't function without him. He'd convinced me I was incompetent, socially awkward, intellectually limited. He was the only one who truly understood me, who could translate the complicated world into terms I could understand. He was my protector, my guide, my future. He was my murderer. This time, I watch him work with the detachment of a scientist studying a particularly interesting parasite. I note his patterns, his techniques, the way he always finds something to criticize about my appearance or my intelligence, but frames it as concern. The way he isolates me from friends by suggesting they're just using me for my family's money. The way he positions my grandmother as a controlling, manipulative figure who will never let me be my own person. She's trying to make you into a clone of herself, he tells me one afternoon as we sit in a cafe near my school. It's not healthy, Claire. You're too young to be thinking about business and responsibilities. You should be enjoying your youth. Maybe, I say, stirring my latte. But I find it interesting. Don't you think it's important to understand the source of your family's wealth? Of course, but there's a difference between understanding and being pressured to take over. Your grandmother is putting you in an impossible position. What if you fail? What if you disappoint her? The stress you're under must be enormous. I let my face fall, let him see the uncertainty he's fishing for. It is stressful sometimes, I admit. There's so much to learn, and everyone expects so much from me. He reaches across the table and takes my hand. His palm is warm and dry, his grip gentle but firm. In my first life, this gesture made me feel safe. Now it makes my skin crawl. You don't have to do this alone, Claire. I'm here for you. I'll always be here for you. Thank you, I whisper, and I let myself lean into him, let him think he's winning. But I'm winning. Every recorded conversation is another nail in his coffin. Every manipulation I pretend to fall for is another piece of evidence. I'm building a case so airtight that when I spring the trap, there will be no escape, no way for him to talk his way out or convince people I'm just a hysterical, confused girl. By the time I turn 17, I've become indispensable at Grandma's company. The executives have stopped treating me like the boss's granddaughter being humored and started treating me like a legitimate colleague. I've identified 3 major inefficiencies in our supply chain and proposed solutions that saved the company nearly $2 million. I've negotiated contracts, smoothed over a near strike at our Tennessee facility, and even closed a deal to supply fabric to a major fashion house that had previously dismissed us as too small scale. You're a natural, David Chen, our COO and Grandma's nephew, tells me after a particularly successful meeting. Eleanor was right about you. I beam at him, my crooked smile on full display. I've learned to weaponize it, to use the thing Ethan tried to make me ashamed of as a badge of honor. When I smile now, people smile back. They see confidence and joy instead of the simple-minded awkwardness Ethan projected onto me. At home, the dynamic has shifted in ways my family hasn't quite processed yet. They're still trying to treat me like the doormat I used to be, but it's not working the way it used to. When Melissa borrows my clothes without asking, I send her an invoice. When my mother tries to guilt me into skipping work at Grandma's company for some society luncheon, I politely decline. When my father asks me to explain some business concept to him, not because he's interested, but because he wants to prove I don't actually know what I'm talking about, I give him a lecture so detailed and jargon-heavy that his eyes glaze over within 2 minutes. She's becoming difficult, I hear my mother tell Ethan one evening when I'm supposed to be upstairs. I'm actually in the hallway, listening shamelessly. Rebellious. It's that dreadful Eleanor putting ideas in her head. Don't worry, Ethan says, his voice smooth as silk. It's just the phase. Once we're married and she's away from her grandmother's influence, she'll settle down. She'll remember what's really important. When are you planning to propose? My mother asks. She's only 17, but we could do a long engagement. I think when she turns 18 would be appropriate. Old enough to make her own decisions, young enough that she hasn't had time to develop too many independent ideas. They laugh together, these 2 parasites planning how best to consume me. I go back upstairs and add the conversation to my recordings, then I pull up my master plan on my laptop and make a few adjustments. The timeline is accelerating. Ethan's getting impatient, worried that the longer I work with Grandma, the harder I'll be to control. He'll make his move soon. I need to be ready. My 18th birthday falls on a Saturday in March, and Grandma throws me a party at her mansion in the Hamptons. It's not the intimate family dinner my parents suggested, Red demanded. It's a lavish affair with 200 guests, business associates, society figures, friends I've made at the company. People who see me as someone worth knowing, not just as Claire Chen, the awkward daughter of the Chen family, but as Claire Chen, Eleanor's protege and heir apparent. I wear a custom gown in deep emerald green, and I smile for every camera, every guest. My crooked smile has been featured in business magazines now. The young heiress with the infectious grin, one called me. Another described it as charmingly asymmetric. What Ethan tried to use to diminish me has become my trademark. He's here, of course. My mother insisted he be invited, and Grandma agreed, though I saw the distaste in her eyes. She's never liked Ethan, has always been politely cool to him. In my first life, I thought she was being unreasonably judgmental. Now I recognize that she saw through him from the beginning, that she tried to warn me in her subtle way, and I was too brainwashed to listen. Beautiful party, Ethan says, appearing at my elbow with 2 champagne flutes. Your grandmother certainly knows how to celebrate. I don't take the champagne. I'm not drinking tonight. I want to remember everything. A flash of irritation crosses his face before he smooths it away. Of course, very mature of you. Walk with me? I ask, linking my arm through his. There's something I want to show you. We make our way through the crowd and out onto the terrace overlooking the ocean. The spring night is cool, and I can see my breath in the air. The party sounds fade to a pleasant murmur behind us. I have something for you, Ethan says, reaching into his jacket. He pulls out a small velvet box, and my stomach clenches even though I knew this was coming. I've been preparing for this moment for 2 years. He opens the box to reveal a ring, not just any ring, the same ring he proposed with in my first life. A 2-carat diamond in a classic setting, beautiful and tantamantsbun, traditional and completely chosen to appeal to my mother's sensibilities rather than my own. Claire, he says, dropping to one knee, I know you're young, and I'm willing to wait as long as you need, but I need you to know that I love you. I've loved you since the moment I met you. You're everything I've ever wanted. Will you marry me? In my first life, I said yes immediately. I cried and threw my arms around him and felt like the luckiest girl in the world. I was 18 years old and thought I'd just been handed a fairy tale. In this life, I look down at him and feel nothing but cold satisfaction. No, I say simply. He freezes, his practiced smile faltering. What? I said no. I'm not going to marry you, Ethan. I'm not going to marry anyone for a long time. I have a company to run, a legacy to honor. I don't have time for a husband. He stands slowly, and I can see him recalibrating, trying to figure out which tactic to use. He settles on hurt confusion. Claire, I don't understand. I thought we had something special. I thought you loved me. I thought I did too, I say. But I've realized something over the past 2 years. I've grown up a lot, learned a lot about myself. And I've learned that I don't actually know you at all. What are you talking about? You know everything about me. Do I? Tell me about your childhood, Ethan. Your real childhood, not the stories you've told me about growing up in Connecticut with your parents who conveniently died when you were 12. His face goes very still. My parents did die when I was 12. No, I say softly. Ethan Reynolds' parents died when he was 6 months old, in a car accident on Route 95. You stole a dead baby's identity when you were 18, Eric Thompson, and you've been running cons ever since? The mask drops. Just for a second, I see the real person underneath. Cold, calculating, furious. Then he laughs, actually laughs, and claps slowly. Well, I have to admit I'm impressed. How long have you known? Since the day we met. Or rather, since the day we met again. What does that mean? I smile at him, and it's not crooked at all now. It's sharp as a knife. It means that you already killed me once, Eric. You married me, stole my inheritance, and murdered me on our wedding day. You made sure my champagne had peanut oil in it, held me down while I died, and then played the devastated widower. My family helped you cover it up because they were getting a cut of my money. Did you know that? My mother took 10 million. My father took 15. Melissa took 5 and a promise of more later. He's staring at me like I've lost my mind, but I can see the calculations running behind his eyes. He's trying to figure out if I'm bluffing, if I somehow found out about his plans, or if I'm genuinely insane. That's quite a story, he says carefully. Claire, have you been taking something? Maybe we should get you some help. I died, I continue. And then I woke up on my 16th birthday. I've been living my life over again, and this time, I'm not falling for your tricks. This time, I'm ready. Claire, you're clearly having some kind of breakdown. Am I? I pull out my phone and press play on a recording. His voice fills the air. Once we're married and she's away from her grandmother's influence, she'll settle down. She'll remember what's really important. I swipe to another recording. Your grandmother is putting you in an impossible position. What if you fail? Another, you're at that age where you think you know everything. His face has gone pale. You've been recording me? Every conversation we've had for 2 years. Every manipulation, every lie, every attempt to isolate me from my grandmother and undermine my confidence. I have hundreds of hours of recordings showing exactly how you've groomed me. That's illegal. New York is a one-party consent state, Eric. I can record any conversation I'm part of without telling you. And I have. I've documented everything. He takes a step toward me, and for the first time, I see real danger in his eyes. Not the controlled, calculated manipulation he's been using for years, but genuine rage. You little bitch. Do you have any idea what I've invested in you? The time I've spent playing your pathetic, devoted boyfriend? 3 years of your life, I say calmly. Planning to steal hundreds of millions from a teenage girl? That must sting, having it all fall apart now. It's not falling apart, he snarls. You think some recordings will stop me? I'll tell everyone you're mentally unstable, that you've been obsessed with me, and I've been trying to let you down gently. Your parents will back me up. They already think you're difficult. They'll put you in a psychiatric facility for evaluation, and by the time you get out, you'll have nothing, I interrupt. Because I'm not the only one who knows about you, Eric. I have private investigators' reports documenting your real identity, your criminal history, your previous marks. I have copies of identity documents you forged. I have statements from people you've victimized before. And I've given all of it to my grandmother's lawyers with instructions to release it to the police if anything happens to me. He's breathing hard now, his careful composure completely shattered. This is the man who killed me, I realize. This rage, this entitled fury at being thwarted. This is what I saw in my last moments, what I'll never forget. You've ruined everything, he says. No, I reply. I've saved myself. There's a difference. He lunges at me then, and I realize too late that I've miscalculated. I thought he'd back down, slink away to find another mark. I didn't account for the ego of a man who can't accept losing. His hands close around my throat, and for one horrible moment, I'm back in my wedding suite, unable to breathe, dying again. But this time, my body is young and strong and amadsina. I've spent 2 years training in self-defense specifically for this moment. I bring my knee up hard into his groin. As he doubles over, I hook my foot behind his ankle and shove, sending him sprawling. By the time he hits the terrace, security guards are pouring out of the house. He attacked me, I gasp, touching my throat. I'll have bruises there tomorrow. Perfect evidence. He tried to kill me. David Chen is there, and Grandma's head of security and several others. They haul Ethan Eric to his feet. He's still gasping for air, still trying to form words. Call the police, I tell them. I want him arrested for assault and fraud and attempted murder. Grandma emerges from the house, moving fast for a 79-year-old woman. She takes one look at my neck and her eyes go hard as diamonds. Do it, she tells David. Wane. Call the police and call Harrison too. I want our best lawyers here within the hour. You can't do this, Eric manages to wheeze. I'll tell them everything. About your grandmother's company? About the offshore accounts? What offshore accounts? Grandma asks coldly. The ones you tried to get Claire to tell you about. The ones that don't exist? We've been monitoring you for 6 months, Mr. Thompson. Every time you tried to fish for information about our finances, every password you tried to steal, every document you attempted to access. We know everything you've done. His face goes slack with shock. You knew? Claire told us who you really were 2 years ago, Grandma says. We investigated and found enough to put you away for a long time, but we wanted to see how far you'd go. We wanted evidence that would stick. And now we have it, I add. Assault in front of witnesses, attempted murder caught on the security cameras. I gesture to the discrete cameras positioned around the terrace. Plus fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit grand larceny. You're going to prison for a very long time, Eric. The police arrive within 15 minutes. They take statements, photograph my neck, review the security footage. Eric is arrested and hauled away, still protesting, still trying to spin some story that will save him. He doesn't look at me as they lead him past. He can't stand to see my crooked smile one last time. The party ends early, but not before I make a brief appearance to assure everyone I'm fine. The story spreads through the Hampton social scene like wildfire. Claire Chen's stalker boyfriend arrested after attacking her at her birthday party. My parents arrive at Grandma's house just as the police are finishing up. What happened? My mother demands. Where's Ethan? Someone said he was arrested? He attacked Claire, Grandma says flatly. Tried to strangle her. He's been arrested for assault and fraud. Fraud? What fraud? My father looks confused, which is his default state. Eleanor, what's going on? Your daughter's boyfriend has been running a con, Grandma explains. His real name is Eric Thompson. He's a career criminal who's been grooming Claire since she was 16 with the goal of stealing her inheritance. That's ridiculous, my mother says. Ethan would never— His name is Eric, I say, my voice hoarse from being strangled. And he absolutely would. He's done it before to other women. I've been investigating him for 2 years. Melissa, who's been silent until now, suddenly laughs. Of course you have. You always have to be so dramatic, Claire. Poor Ethan probably just wanted to talk to you, and you overreacted. He had his hands around my throat, I snap. There are cameras, there are witnesses, there are bruises on my neck. How is that overreacting? Well, what did you do to provoke him? My mother asks. The question hangs in the air like poison. What did I do? As if being strangled is ever the victim's fault. As if I deserved it somehow. She refused his marriage proposal, Grandma says, her voice deadly quiet. That's what she did. She said no, and he tried to kill her for it. Marriage proposal? My father perks up slightly. He was going to propose? Why didn't you tell us? Because I knew I was going to refuse, I say. Because I've known for 2 years exactly what kind of person he is. And you didn't think to tell us? My mother asks, her voice rising. We've been welcoming him into our home, treating him like family. You've been treating him like a son-in-law who could give you access to my inheritance, I correct. Don't pretend you ever cared about me or what I wanted. You've been working with him from the start. The silence that falls is absolute. My mother's face goes white, then red. How dare you accuse us? I have recordings, I say simply. Conversations between you and Eric about how you'd split my money after he married me. Discussions about having me declared incompetent if I didn't cooperate. Plans to isolate me from Grandma so I'd be easier to control. More lies, but I can see from their faces that I've hit close enough to the truth to rattle them. They might not have actively conspired with Eric, but they've certainly been counting on my inheritance as part of their retirement planning. Get out, Grandma says. All of you. Claire's staying here tonight, and I don't want to see any of you unless she specifically asks for you. You can't keep her from us, my father blusters. She's our daughter. She's 18 years old and can make her own choices. And she chooses to stay with me. Don't you, Claire? I do, I say firmly. And I think we all need some space right now. My parents leave, taking Melissa with them. They're angry and confused, unable to process that their carefully controlled daughter has slipped through their fingers. Once they're gone, Grandma pulls me into a hug. Are you all right? I am now, I say, and it's true. My neck hurts and I'm shaking with adrenaline, but I feel more all right than I have in 2 lifetimes. You were very brave tonight, she says. but also very foolish. You should never have confronted him alone. I wasn't alone. I had security nearby, and I needed to see his face when I told him I knew everything. She pulls back and looks at me searchingly. There's something you're not telling me. Something about how you knew to investigate him in the first place. You said the day we met again. What did you mean by that? I consider lying, but I'm tired of lies, tired of hiding. Would you believe me if I said I've lived this life before, that I died when I was 21 and woke up on my 16th birthday? I expect her to laugh or to look concerned about my mental health. Instead, she just nods slowly. That would explain a great deal. The sudden maturity, the certainty about what you wanted, the way you seemed to know things before they happened. You believe me? I believe that something extraordinary happened to you, and that it gave you the wisdom to save yourself. Whether it was literal death and rebirth or something else, does it matter? You're here now, safe, and that man is in custody. I hug her again, harder this time. I love you, Grandma. I love you too, little warrior. Now let's get some ice for your neck and some hot tea. Tomorrow we deal with the aftermath. Tonight you rest. The aftermath is spectacular. Eric Thompson's arrest makes national news. The story of a con man who posed as an Ivy League graduate to prey on a teenage heiress captures the public imagination. Journalists dig into his background and find a trail of victims, small-time scams that led up to his attempt on me. Some of the other women he targeted come forward, and suddenly there's a criminal case that extends far beyond simple assault. My family is investigated too. The recordings I have of their conversations with Eric are damning enough that prosecutors want to know if they were active participants in the conspiracy or just willfully negligent parents. In the end, they're not charged with anything criminal, but the court of public opinion is less forgiving. Society columns that used to feature my mother at charity luncheons now run pieces questioning how she could have failed to protect her daughter from a predator. My father's business colleagues distance themselves, not wanting to be associated with the scandal. Melissa finds that her influencer career stalls out as brands don't want to work with someone from such a toxic family. I don't feel sorry for them. They made their choices just as I've made mine. I move in with Grandma full-time. My parents don't fight it. They're too busy dealing with their own reputational collapse. I finish high school while working at the company, then enroll in business school part-time while taking on more responsibilities as Grandma gradually steps back. Eric goes to trial 18 months after his arrest. I testify. My neck scars long faded but still visible in the photographs. Entered into evidence. The jury takes less than 3 hours to convict him on all counts: assault, fraud, identity theft, conspiracy to commit grand larceny. He's sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. I'm in the courtroom when they read the verdict. He finally looks at me then, really looks at me, and I smile. My crooked, asymmetric, beautiful smile. The smile that was never anything but proof that I'm human, imperfect, real. He drops his eyes first. 5 years after my 18th birthday, I take over as CEO of Chen Industries. Grandma remains as chairman of the board, but the day-to-day operations are mine now. At 23, I'm one of the youngest CEOs of a major corporation, and the business press has a field day with it. The crooked smile that launched a textile empire, won magazine headlines, and I frame it for my office. The company has tripled in value under my leadership. I've expanded into sustainable fabrics, formed partnerships with major fashion houses, and opened new facilities in 3 countries. I've hired brilliant people, delegated effectively, and built a reputation for being tough but fair. I've also started a foundation to help victims of financial fraud and domestic abuse. We provide legal services, counseling, and financial education. Every woman we help feels like a small revenge against Eric, against my family, against everyone who ever tried to convince me I was less than I am. My parents occasionally reach out, usually when they need money. I've learned to say no. Melissa sends me Instagram DMs every few months, alternating between begging for help and accusing me of abandoning the family. I leave them on read. Grandma is 84 now, still sharp but slowing down. She spends her days in the Hamptons house watching the ocean and reading. She tells me stories about building the company, about the obstacles she overcame as a Chinese immigrant woman in business. She tells me she's proud of me, that I've exceeded every hope she had. I tell her that I wouldn't be here without her, that she saved me in more ways than she knows. As for romance, I date casually but carefully. I've learned to spot the red flags, the subtle signs of manipulation. I've learned to trust my instincts. There are good men out there, kind men who don't need to diminish a woman to feel powerful. I've met a few. Maybe one day I'll let myself fall in love again. But for now, I'm enough. The company is enough. Building something lasting, something that will outlive me, something that helps people. That's enough. On the 5-year anniversary of Eric's arrest, I go back to the Hamptons house and stand on the same terrace where he tried to kill me. The spring night is cool and clear, and I can see stars overhead, something you never see in the city. I touch my throat where his hands were, where the bruises have long since faded. I think about the girl I was in my first life, timid, uncertain, desperate for approval. I think about how she died without ever really living, without ever being herself. Then I think about who I am now, strong, capable, successful, someone who turned a second chance into a complete transformation. Someone who took the weapon others tried to use against her, her crooked smile, and turned it into her signature. I smile out at the ocean, alone but not lonely, damaged but not broken. I smile for myself, for Grandma, for every woman who's ever been told she's too much or not enough. I smile for everyone except the man who tried to steal it from me. And I realize, standing there under the stars, that this is what winning looks like. Not revenge, though that was sweet. Not even success, though I've achieved more than I ever dreamed. Winning looks like being yourself, fully and unapologetically. It looks like refusing to be smaller to make others comfortable. It looks like taking the things that were meant to hurt you and transforming them into your greatest strengths. Winning looks like a crooked smile that no one can take away. 10 years after my death and rebirth, I attend the wedding of David Chen's daughter. It's a beautiful ceremony in the Hamptons on a perfect June day. I'm 31 now, still running the company, still building my empire. Eric Thompson is still in prison. He'll be eligible for parole in 5 more years, though I've made it my business to ensure he doesn't get it. I write letters to the parole board every year detailing his crimes, attaching news clippings about the other women who've come forward. He'll serve his full 20 years if I have anything to say about it. My family isn't here. My father died 2 years ago, a heart attack. My mother lives in Florida now, still bitter about how things turned out. Melissa married a minor tech executive and occasionally tries to sell stories about me to tabloids. They always check with me first, and I always decline to comment. She never has anything interesting to say anyway. Grandma passed away 6 months ago, peacefully, in her sleep. She was 89 years old. She left me everything, though I'd already owned most of the company. What I didn't expect was the letter she left with her will. "My darling Claire," it read up I don't know if your story of death and rebirth was literal truth or a metaphor for the moment you decided to become yourself. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you took a second chance, however it came to you, and you used it to build an extraordinary life. You saved yourself, which is the hardest and most important thing any of us can do. I'm so proud of the woman you've become. Keep smiling that beautiful, crooked smile. It lights up the world. All my love, Grandma. I cried for 3 days after reading it, but they were good tears, cleansing tears. Tears of grief, but also of gratitude. At the wedding reception, someone asks me to dance. He's a friend of the groom, a venture capitalist named James, who's apparently been trying to work up the courage to talk to me all evening. He's handsome in an understated way, with kind eyes and laugh lines. "I have to warn you," he says as we move onto the dance floor. "I'm a terrible dancer." "That's okay," I tell him, smiling. "I have a crooked smile. We can be imperfect together." He laughs, surprised and delighted. "I like that. I like you." "You don't know me yet." "Then maybe you'll let me get to know you? Coffee sometime?" I consider it. Consider him. I've gotten very good at reading people, at seeing the truth beneath the surface. I don't see any red flags here, just a nervous man trying to make a good impression. Just a possibility, not a guarantee. "Maybe," I say. "Ask me again at the end of the song." We dance and it's nice. Uncomplicated. Easy. When the song ends, he asks again, and this time I say yes. I don't know if it will lead anywhere. I don't need it to. I'm complete without him, without anyone. but I'm open to the possibility, and that's new. That's growth. As I leave the reception that evening, I catch sight of myself in a mirror. 31 years old, successful, powerful, genuinely happy. I smile at my reflection, and the crooked angle doesn't bother me at all. It never did, really. It only bothered the people who wanted to control me. I think about the girl I was at 16, waking up with memories of death and a second chance at life. I think about how terrified she was, how determined. I think about every choice she made, every battle she fought, every moment she chose to be strong instead of safe. That girl saved me. That girl saved herself, and she did it with a smile.